He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. And as I promised, every Friday we're going to have Jeff Duncan with us. He's a writer and columnist for The Athletic. He's covered the Saints longer than anyone on earth, and we're just thrilled to have him. Jeff, how you doing, buddy? Come on in.
Hey, Ricky, I'm doing great. I'm sure you've got the same weather over on the Gulf Coast that we have here in New Orleans, and it's like spectacular. It's great to be alive in this kind of weather.
Man, it is so special. Ann and I, we actually went out last night. We drove down Highway 90 and met Josh Morgerman, the number one hurricane chaser in the world, who's living in Bay St. Louis for the season. And we met him at North 200 and had dinner outside, at an outside table. Gosh, Bay St. Louis is a special place. And the weather was literally perfect. The food was phenomenal. And the company was terrific as well. But it was a nice drive down Highway 90 last night.
Yeah, it's just spectacular right now. And you got to get out and enjoy it while we have it. But this month of October is usually pretty special, and it's starting off that way.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us. You can see behind me, I got your book.
Yes. Finally. Glad
Peyton and Breeze, the men who built the greatest offense in NFL history, by Jeff Duncan. And it's got a foreword by Steve Gleason. And I want to come back to Steve in just a second, but one of the things that starting the book reminded me of, Jeff, was that when you watch last week's show and you see 2 weeks in a row of losses, it's easy to get frustrated as a fan. And I'm sure you see that, you hear that. You have to keep in mind that the pandemic is going on. You got some new players involved in the process. You lost Michael Thomas, really a lot of new players on defense. And it's going to take the Saints a little bit of time to get their legs underneath them. But one of the things this book reminded me of was that Drew Brees and Sean Payton, they're phenomenal leaders. They have computers for brains. And ultimately, I don't think we're going to have to worry about the offense. And we'll talk about this more in a minute. But that you feel the same way, don't you?
Yeah, I really do. I think both these guys are incredibly passionate about what they do. And trust me, for every frustration that a fan feels, they feel it 10 times worse. And they, as you mentioned, their leadership, I think that carries over. They set a standard in the building. One of the things I've learned about Drew Brees is his standard that he holds himself to affects everyone around him, including the coaching staff. They all feel a shared sense of responsibility and accountability to match his high standards. And yeah. I guarantee you that's been going on throughout the season. I think they improved last week. They played better. They just played a red-hot team and didn't play quite well enough. More self-inflicted wounds than anything else prevented them from winning that game. And I think it's a sign going forward just how talented this team is, that they could play a game like that, be tied up midway through the fourth quarter without some of their key players and playing basically like their B game. I think it just shows you that this team can be a Super Bowl contender and still has that potential if they can just eliminate some of the self-induced mistakes.
Well, we're gonna get into that. We'll dive in this conversation today. We'll dive deeper into the offense. We'll talk about, it's taking the defense longer to get their feet underneath them. I want to hear your thoughts about that. But let's stick with your book for just a second, because you and I work together. I know that you had sort of this deep personal relationship with Steve Gleason and his wife Michelle. It was very important to you, wasn't it, that Steve write this forward?
Yeah, it was. I know Steve. I've known him his entire career. His career with the Saints kind of coincided with my career covering the Saints. He came in 2000, the first year that I covered the team, and we've gotten to know each other off the field. And I just have so much respect for him, obviously as a football player, but also as just a person. He is one of the most interesting people I've ever met. Has little to do with football. He's just an inspiring person in general. And he was the first person I suggested to the publishers to invite to write the forward. I didn't know if he'd have time. He's so busy. And he was more than excited about it and honored. And as you can see, Ricky, he's a terrific writer, a fantastic writer. And I knew it would be a special forward, and just really honored that he elected to do so.
So it was so interesting because I told you I got the book. What I normally do when I get a book like this, I want to understand the structure of it, and we can talk about that to some extent if you want to. And then I started reading, and what I want to do for just a second is I want to share the first 3 paragraphs that Steve wrote, because it's a great reminder of not only what this team means to this region, but what Drew Brees and Sean Payton mean to this region. And I just thought he did such a wonderful job of saying it. So let me just read the first few paragraphs, and then you can comment. So this is Steve Gleason in the foreword for Jeff Duncan's book, Payton and Brees. I met Sean Payton and Drew Brees 14 years ago in 2006. At the time, the Saints and the city of New Orleans were just in the initial stages following the agonizing destruction of Hurricane Katrina. I played on the team for the previous 6 seasons and had fallen in love with the unique culture of this community, not to mention a daughter of the community I found uniquely lovable. While I was confident the people of New Orleans would recover resiliently, I was not so sure about the Saints organization. I had more pressing personal concerns. The family of my future wife, Michelle, had their home completely destroyed. Even more personally, when Coach Payton first set eyes on me in the Saints cafeteria, he assumed I was just a long-haired team equipment manager. Along with Michelle's family in the city of New Orleans, I was working to find a return to success after a really difficult year following Hurricane Katrina. Ultimately, Drew Brees and Sean Payton would be the catalyst of that return, a collective rebirth. From a personal perspective, 14 years later, I consider Coach Payton and Drew Brees my brothers. Yeah, I convinced Payton that I was more than an equipment manager during the 2006 training camp. But 3 years after I retired from the NFL, I was diagnosed with ALS, a hurricane of a disease, painful and agonizing. Brees and Payton have been immensely supportive of me, both publicly and privately. I am grateful for their friendship. I love them. At the same point, during the Saints team and the organization's transition, the phrase, "we will walk together forever," emerged. I've remained in New Orleans, and I am raising my family with my wife, Michelle. Coaches and players have come and gone, as we all do. But for the past 14 years, I have gotten to see Drew and Coach at the facility or the Dome or Mardi Gras or fundraisers or even at the house. Both of these guys ushered in a change of plans, a change of mindset, and a change of heart, not only for the Saints organization, but the entire New Orleans region. It is in a completely unprecedented way. Since the 2006 season, the people of the city and the region can all proudly say, "We will walk together forever." He goes on from there. It's such a powerful forward. And, I couldn't help but think about, I was in the Superdome in 2006 when they reopened that first game with Atlanta when Steve blocked that punt. It's hard to explain. It's hard to put into words the energy and the excitement of that moment. And you go, okay, fast forward through today. The contribution that team made, what Drew Brees and Sean Payton made, helping all of us find our diversion, find our entertainment, find our way away from all the disaster of Hurricane Katrina. I just thought that Steve captured it so well to sort of integrate those two men in the rebirth of this region. And I'm really not overstating that, really. I mean, you feel the same way, don't you, Jeff?
Well, Ricky, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, those two men stepped into this region at a time when there was a real dearth of really strong leadership. in the city and in the region, and a crying need for strong leadership. In some ways, it reminds me, if you remember, how General Honore came in and led the recovery and how popular he became because he showed decisive, strong leadership in the recovery of the city and the region. I think Drew Brees and Sean Payton also kind of exemplified that leadership. And we just had not had that, unfortunately, from some of our elected officials and other people in the region. And I think people have gravitated toward that. And that's one of the great parts of their legacy beyond what they've done on the football field, is how they've changed the culture and perception of this organization. It's a very difficult thing to do in professional sports.
It really is. And when you can, Steve goes on to write, and when you look at the forward in its totality, what a great contribution to the beginning of this book to help you recognize that it's beyond just playing, but the leadership and inspiration they provided to our region. And that's one of the reasons, actually, that I feel like we're going to be okay from an offensive point of view. So, look, let's do this. When we come back, we'll pick it up right there and continue the conversation. This is Jeff Duncan from The Atlantic, and we'll be back after this break.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the coastal Mississippi studios, this is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk 103.1.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90 Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors. Here the show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse at telesouth.com. That's JESSE at telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Jeff Duncan with us. He's a reporter and columnist for The Athletic. He covers the Saints. He's a good friend not only of mine, but to the show. He's going to be with us every Friday to talk about the Saints and what's happening. And hopefully in the future, we'll talk more about the Saints winning and not losing. And, Jeff, one of the things I wanted to, that I mentioned to you is that when I started reading your book, not only was I inspired beyond football, but I was inspired about football. And the specific point that, I made the point on the show the other day, can Drew Brees throw a pass further than 3 yards? Now, I know he can, but it was frustrating that we weren't going downfield more often. We'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things in reading this book is I got to the chapter on the supercomputer. I think it was John Stitchcomb that had referred to him as the supercomputer, talking about Drew and the way he analyzes the field and how quick he can process and whatever. I came across the name of this one play, which was the play that Drew Brees broke Peyton Manning's all-time passing record. And here's the name of the play: hop to gun, king trips right, pair 52, sway, all go, special X, shallow, cross, halfback, wide.
Yeah.
So when I read that, I can't help but think about what you said about that the Saints offense, you have to have a PhD. It's a PhD in offense. This is why young players, when they come in, they have a hard time. You got to be smart to be in this offense. When you put it all together and you see that they improved some last week, and Drew Brees can still throw the ball, we probably should worry more about the defense than the offense. We'll come back to that in a second. But the reality is, they're probably going to figure it out, aren't they?
Well, yeah, you've got PhD level offensive coaches and players on this team, and look, they've gotten off to a little bit of a slow start. There's no denying that. I think it's surprising to a lot of people. It's surprising to myself because I thought this team was uniquely wired and built to avoid the slow start because of this unique offseason with the pandemic. Because of that continuity, that experience they have, we assumed they would pick up quicker than most other teams, and it's actually been almost the opposite. And it might be just because they've got such a complex, sophisticated system that's caused them to kind of start slowly, and also losing the best receiver in football, Mike Thomas. That's certainly played a part. But I also believe there's no reason for concern here. We've seen them go through these stretches before, and because of the leadership, because of the acumen and the ability of this offensive staff and Drew Brees, the offense is going to take care of itself. I think it'll start this weekend against Detroit, and we'll see them incrementally continue to get better. I'm more concerned about some of the issues on defense right now, but offensively, not a concern.
So we'll come back to the defense a little bit later. So let's stay on this. So again, it was a good reminder to me that there's so much at work here. I mean, we talked last week about Drew said that timing was an issue, and he's got to get the timing down. That seemed to improve some this week. I don't know about the play calling. There's a lot I don't know about, but the fact is they did improve some. They scored some points. Defense let too many dang points get scored. Again, we'll come back to that. But what are you hearing? So this week, what is Drew saying? What is the coach saying? Bring us inside the Saints organization for a minute. How has this week been?
Well, I mean, everyone's on call. There's no doubt about that. They've been served notice by Sean Payton that he's not going to accept these mental errors is what's really undoing the Saints, especially in the secondary. We don't expect to see, these egregious miscommunication errors from such a veteran team. This is not a team that's inexperienced or that has a bunch of rookies playing in the secondary. So you can't let players run free the way they did against the Green Bay Packers. You cannot defend the bootleg so incompetently every time, play after play. These are mistakes that should happen to, say, the Carolina Panthers, who are installing a new system with new players, a roster overturn. Not this team. And I think Sean Payton has lit a fire under the defensive staff and the players to get this ironed out, because they're going to continue to see the bootleg from future quarterbacks if they can't defend it the way they have the last couple of weeks. And it started with the Raiders game.
So let's go to Drew for a second. What's the buzz around Drew? What's he saying? Bring us inside that.
Well, he's typical Drew. I mean, Scott Fujita referred to him once as annoyingly optimistic, and that's Drew Brees. He's never going to let on that there's an issue, that there's a problem. He certainly will say things like, hey, we've got to play better. We've got to get better attention to detail. I think right now it's the small things that are holding back the offense. Dan Campbell, the tight ends coach, said the other day that there's just these little, the Saints refer to it, and I've referenced this often in the book, as painting the picture for the quarterback. Drew Brees relies so much on his telepathic kind of communication between his receivers and himself, knowing where they're going to go. They have so many routes, Ricky, where the receiver has to read the coverage and make a decision. He can go left, right, deep, short, and they have different routes. They're called choice routes, option routes. They rely a lot on that, and it's all based on the receiver and the quarterback being on the same page. And what's happened here early on, for whatever reason, they haven't been on the same page. And it's not every time. It's just every once in a while, a key third down, a key play. The margin for error is so razor thin that if a tight end continues on his route over the middle and Drew thinks he's going to settle into the open void, Drew throws, anticipating that the tight end's going to be right there. Instead, he carries over. It looks like Drew threw behind him, and it's a poor throw. And actually, he's throwing it to a spot. He anticipates where the tight end is going to be. These little things, these synchronicity issues, that's one thing I think that hurt them not having the offseason, but it's something I expect they'll get fixed and ironed out.
Drew talked about running shot plays.
Yeah, and they've run a bunch of them. They've run a bunch of them. They just haven't, for whatever reason, either he hasn't had time to throw it, the receivers haven't gotten open. And there's been a couple times that they have had a guy open, and Drew hasn't pulled the trigger for whatever reason. I don't know why that is. I asked Sean Payton about it this week. Sean said it's not a quarterback issue. He said Drew is throwing the ball down the field in practice as good as he's ever seen him. So, something's amiss, though, because they've not gotten the ball down the field. They've only attempted 3 passes over 20 yards all year in 3 games. That's something I think that's going to change. They have them in the playbook. They've called them. They just haven't tried them yet. So that's where I think the disconnect is right now.
To what extent do you think he's feeling the pressure a little bit more than normal?
I've thought about that. Drew Brees is such a Jedi, Ricky. I mean, he doesn't, I don't think, lack confidence in any way. But I would say that there's, I think, maybe a little bit of a lack of confidence right now in the way the offense is working. And he's going to what he feels confident in, and that's Alvin Kamara, who's playing at a Pro Bowl level. And he has that same confidence in Mike Thomas. We all know that, who's going to be back this week. So I think he's going to be more confident with these other options once he gets Mike Thomas and Alvin Kamara back, and they become the secondary and tertiary options in the offense. But for whatever reason, he hasn't developed that confidence with some of the newer players on this offense right now.
So, let's come back. Let's just mention Mike. Michael Thomas came back limited to practice. It's looking pretty good for him still. Yeah,
he's going to play this week. He wanted to play last week, and they had to talk him out of not playing. I mean, it was out of an abundance of caution to not let him do any further damage to that ankle. But he's going to be out there this week, and he'll make a difference. And the way Kamara's playing, that'll balance out the offense. I don't know if they're going to have Jared Cook. He tweaked his groin last week at the end of a tackle, so he could be out. They're going to have to rely on Josh Hill and their young tight end, Adam Troutman, who they're very, very high on, is going to get thrown a little bit more to the fire in this game, I think.
Boy, Kamara, we talked about him last week, and then after seeing him on Sunday, boy, he's playing healthy. You can really tell he's inspired this year.
I don't think I've ever seen a back with the innate balance that he has. I refer to it as like a cat. It's like he never gets knocked off his feet. He's always in balance. He has terrific vision, but I think what makes him special is that balance. He's not the fastest back in the world. He's not the most powerful, but he's kind of got a little bit of everything. But it's that balance, that ability. Deuce McAllister talks about it a lot, the ability to make yourself small, to not take those big hits, to turn your shoulders just a little bit. He's just got a feel for running, and it's very special. And you're right, he's on top of his game right now and really has carried a heavy load of this offense early on. They've got to get some other guys involved because they can't expect him to continue to turn a 2-yard pass into a 52-yard touchdown.
That one run, man, that was the highlight reel. It's going to be hard to to beat that one, to being sort of the number one play of his for the year. And you know what? The balance he showed in that, we're coming to the end of this segment, and we'll pick it up on the other side, but the balance he showed in that particular play, it's not by accident. I mean, the work that Alvin Kamara puts into, he's already got great balance, but he's taken it to a whole nother level in the way he works on that during the offseason. We'll come back and talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go into the defense. This is Jeff Duncan from The Athletic, and we'll talk to you more after this break.
Coast View on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all of the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
Heart attacks and strokes don't stay home. So don't avoid the ER out of anxiety. Don't die of doubt. If you have an emergency, call 911. When seconds count, the hospital is the safest place to be.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and all this stuff was going on at the same time, / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
There's a place to share gossip about the office party fun, and a place to share the story you tell everyone. There's a place to share a laugh about when things went wrong, and a place to share the video of you dancing to your song. There's a place to share spare change, lunch, and your time. But we could all be better at sharing how we're feeling inside. 76% of employees have struggled with at least one issue that affected their mental health. When you share, you're not alone.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi, and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have 2 risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Whether you're a Rebel, a Bulldog, a Golden Eagle, or just a sports fan, SuperTalk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. For you. Sports Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, and the Borky Show are all now available for you. And it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for SuperTalk on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fm.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors. Here the show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Jeff Duncan with us with The Athletic. He's covered the Saints more than anyone else on earth. And his book about Sean Payton and Drew Brees is officially available when, Jeff?
You can actually get it right now, Ricky. If you order it online at Amazon or any of the online dealers, Triumph Books, the publisher, you can get it in a couple days, but it will be on the bookshelves in your local bookstores October 13th.
Wow, that's great, man. I'm excited for you because it's a great read, and you did a great job of sort of capturing the essence of what makes that tandem successful. You know, just the way you laid the book out. It's not necessarily chronological. It's really about you worked really hard to think through what are the keys to success in this partnership, didn't you?
Yeah, and I think as you read it, Ricky, and as your viewers and listeners read it, I think they'll see that it's not just a sports book. If you're in business or just in keys to life, how best practices to apply to life, you'll get something out of it, learning from how Drew Brees and Sean Payton attack their jobs, how the mental stamina required to be successful at something, the amount of work they put into a given week's game plan is extraordinary. And I think you'll appreciate a little more just what it takes to be successful at a high level of competition like the NFL.
We talked about Kamara. What a great game. What an amazing balance. If he continues to play at that level, and we get Michael Thomas and some of these other guys involved and get Drew throwing down the field better, offense is going to probably be okay. Anything else you want to mention? Like, for example, didn't the offensive line get tweaked some in this game?
Yeah, it looks like Andres Pete, hurt his ankle or his foot. We don't know the official status of him. He didn't practice yesterday. I don't think he's going to be available this week, but that's an area the Saints have some pretty good depth at. That's an area that they can absorb a loss of a starter because Cesar Ruiz is back, their first-round draft pick from Michigan. Nick Easton's a versatile journeyman, veteran player who can play any of the inside positions. So I think they're going to be okay there, Ricky. The offensive line, I thought, played better last week, and I think they will have a big advantage this week against Detroit. Their front seven in Detroit is not that talented, and I think the Saints, as they started out last week, running the ball so well against Green Bay and kind of let it get away from them once they started falling behind, I think they'll try to establish the run again this week on Detroit, who's given up some really huge rushing games by Green Bay and by the Chicago Bears so far this season.
On the play you mentioned about Andreas Pete, what was really frightening about that is watching the slow motion replay of how his leg got kind of rolled up on from behind. And I would have I said, well, his fibula or something had to have broke in that scenario. So if he just got a sprain, he's lucky.
Yeah, it's the friendly fire that every player fears, getting rolled up on from behind because you're engaged with a blocker, moving downfield. Happens all the time. That's why so many guys wear those knee braces. The offensive linemen almost all wear them. And unfortunately, this was to his lower leg. And he's such a big, athletic guy. Anders Pete's often downfield, as we see. That's definitely going to be a blow to this team, but they have some depth. And let's just hope it's not a season-ending injury.
Hey, I can't help you. Okay, I got to come back to Kamara one more time. On that run that he did, to see an offensive lineman down there and watching Kamara's patience. So two things kind of came to mind. One is we got some fast offensive linemen. And second, we have one of the most patient running backs in the NFL. That was amazing to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a great observation. It speaks to the patience that Alvin Kamara runs with. His offensive linemen talk about that with him all the time. When you mentioned Alvin Kamara, they talk about the patience and how he allows them time to set up their blocks. There's a timing element to the run game that I don't think, not just on that play, but in runs in general. I remember Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys coach now, but the former Saints offensive coordinator, used to tell me that people don't understand that, like, the running game is timed. The hole is going to open in a certain amount of time, and the running back has to let that develop from his offensive line. He can't run up their backs too quickly. This was a problem Reggie Bush had, you remember, early on in his career. He would not see the hole, and what would he do? He'd bounce it outside, go east-west, and get tackled for a loss. Well, that wasn't how the play was designed. He wasn't showing that patience to let the hole open, because it's eventually going to open as you run to it. Alvin Kamara just has that innate feel for doing that. And Eric McCoy showed why they are so high on him. That athleticism is remarkable. I don't think people realize just how fast these guys are. I mean, Eric McCoy is faster than all of us, a lot faster, and he's a lot bigger. It's scary to see somebody move that big, move that fast.
Well, okay, so let's shift gears. A lot of moving parts. You've already mentioned that the senior leadership, the amount of experience that we have, we should have shut down corners. It's certainly not appearing that we do at this stage of the game. Too many mistakes, players getting wide open. We're not getting the pressure on the quarterback the way we need to. I mean, I could go on and on. What do you think's going on?
Well, let me just make this point, and I don't want to make excuses, but they played a Hall of Fame quarterback last week, a guy that can exploit the smallest, miscommunication or assignment errors. They're not going to face a guy like Aaron Rodgers very often. He's playing lights out right now. He's playing with extraordinary confidence. So that's the good news. I mean, they've got to correct the errors, but against other teams, it might not have been exploited the way it was. I mean, he dropped some passes in, Ricky, that show why he's so talented. Very few quarterbacks can make those plays or see the mismatch. So it'll be interesting to see going forward if they get these things corrected. I know that Dennis Allen had a fire lit under him by Sean Payton. I mean, he basically called him out the other day, saying that a high school team could defend that bootleg better than the Saints have. If he said that publicly behind closed doors, it's been even worse.
It had to have been tough. But you know what? You do make a good point. In that particular game, it seemed like the Green Bay offense could not miss on any play they were executing. You just had this sense that, man, they were just, it's one of those days where they were almost unstoppable.
Yeah, and look, they did it without Devontae Adams. The Saints were without Mike Thomas, but their best receiver, Devontae Adams, who's a Pro Bowl caliber receiver, wasn't on the field either. So that's scary how good they're playing right now. Their running game's very good. They've got good backs. I mean, they're playing as well as they can right now, and they're going to be a factor down the road. You can see that he's got a lot of confidence, he being Aaron Rodgers, in Matt LaFleur and their offensive philosophy. They've really meshed this in year two. So I expect them to be a factor in this playoff hunt. The Saints, as Sean Payton said this week, they don't need to worry about the Lions as much as they need to worry about themselves, because I think if they can just correct their internal issues, Defensively, offensively, some of the assignment errors they've had, they'll be fine because the talent we know is there.
So defensive pass interference. I mean, if you look at the number of penalty yards we've had over especially the last couple of weeks, I mean, certainly we had a bunch in the first game. So, man, how do we fix that?
Well, you're going to have to live with some of it because this is the way the Saints play. I mean, they have a philosophy defensively that they're going to be aggressive. They're going to play a lot of man-to-man, and they're a handsy team. I mean, if you noticed during that broadcast, Ricky, Chris Collinsworth said something I thought raised my eyebrows a little bit. Sometimes you hear this during the broadcast because they get time with the coaching staffs during their production meetings. And Chris Collinsworth said, how long did Matt LaFleur spend with us talking about how much the Saints hold on defense? He said he worked us about that. That's the way the Saints play. They've done that forever. It's a Greg Williams philosophy. It's going to be Dennis Allen's philosophy. It is Dennis Allen's philosophy. They hold a lot, and they're going to get called by certain crews more than others because of the way they play. They elect to play. It's like a basketball team that hand checks all the time on defense. They feel like they're going to do that because more often than not, they're going to get away with it. The officials can't always call it, but they have to adjust with a given crew. And I think there was just a lack of focus in this game. Let their guard down a little bit there, especially Janoris Jenkins late. But they've got to get that cleaned up because these are huge chunks of yardage that are being given to the other team because of mistakes and fundamentals.
It's hard to zero in on something like Taysom Hill's fumble when all these other things are swirling around it. But man, the game was tied. It was such a critical moment in the game, and he's usually Mr. Dependable. I mean, he's not a fumbler. To what extent did that affect him?
Well, that was a huge play in the game. And look, I actually think a couple things on that. One, a great play by Zadarius Smith, who's a great player. I mean, if we see that happen with the Saints, we're talking about how great a play it was, right? Incredible read and forced fumble. But Taysom made the wrong read on that. He had to give the ball to the running back. He should have given it to Latavius Murray. He's reading Zadarius Smith, and he crashed down on him. That was a read option. You need to give the ball up there, and he doesn't fumble, and Matt gets a 4 or 5 yard gain. Just an uncharacteristic mistake by him. And that package that we've seen be so successful with Taysom Hill has not worked the last couple of weeks. Teams are prepared for it, and I think Sean Payton, the offensive staff, have to get a little more creative with how they use him because he is a playmaker and a factor for this team, but it hasn't happened the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'd like to see him in that receiver position more often. I think, just get the ball on his hands so his speed can come, into fruition. Hey, when we come back after the break, this is Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. Let's talk about what's coming up this week.
SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Pot, come on, it's time for me to go beat Elvis." And he stood up, and a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Everyone knows the only thing better than pizza is free pizza, and right now, buy a $10 gift certificate to CiCi's Pizza for only $5. It's like buying a pizza and getting a pizza for free. Go to our station's website or Facebook. Look for the Half Off Deals logo to purchase this amazing deal right now.
We give HPV vaccine to children at 11 or 12 years of age. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I've given the vaccine to all of them.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90, Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Jeff Duncan with us. He's a reporter and columnist for The Athletic, and been covering the Saints longer than anyone else on earth, and he's a good friend to the show. Jeff, it is so important when the Saints win. It's no fun when the Saints lose. We're spoiled, aren't we?
Yeah, I think winning 13 games, the Saints have made it look easy the last couple of years. You know, look, they've had more 13-win seasons than anybody in football the last, 15 years. I think only the Patriots match them right now, and we shouldn't take for granted the excellent play. It's been disappointing for people, I know, because they haven't topped it off with a Super Bowl title. And I think that's a big part of the Peyton Breeze legacy this season is on the line. They need to get back to the Super Bowl. I don't know if winning one, certainly winning one would help. I think just getting back there, getting in on that platform again is important before Drew Brees does retire, which I anticipate is probably going to happen after this season.
I wish this did not have to play out in the pandemic. You and I have talked about that a lot. And then, of course, this week we get news. The first NFL game is canceled as a result of it. And it just reminds everybody that this COVID situation is not going away. I mean, we might want to ignore it. We might want to just get on with our lives. But the moment we drop our guard, and someone on one of those teams did, then we're going to, the COVID will find the path of least resistance, and before you know it, you have a hot spot, and they're really working hard in the NFL to alleviate that. And the Saints have been incredibly diligent, haven't they?
Yeah, they've been fortunate, and I think it's a tribute to a testament to the organization, the protocols they installed, and how everyone's following it, understanding it, the education that have, and basically. Sean Payton, I think, having it early on gave him a healthy respect for the enemy.
Yeah.
And the Saints certainly have been a model for every other franchise. And look, the league knew this was going to happen. I mean, infections were going to happen.
Yes.
It was inevitable. That's why they expanded the rosters, why they expanded the practice squad. The key is containing it within your building. And I think they were wise to postpone this game. They're going to replay it later in the season, but it just makes sense right now, for fairness to both teams, to not try and go forward.
Yeah, I think it's a good move, and I love how decisive they were on every aspect of this. So, hey, just got a couple of minutes left. Let's. What are we about to face in Detroit?
Well, I think it's a scary game. It's certainly a winnable game. This is a team that the Saints are more talented than on both sides of the ball, but they've been competitive early on. They've been in every game they played this year. Kind of had let a couple of games get away from them. Lost to the Packers, and the Bears game in the opener was one that they should have won. And then they go on the road last week and beat Arizona, who was 2-0. So that was a good win for them. But they lack, I think, some of the seasoning at certain positions. Right now, they're still in transition under Matt Patricia. There will be no fans at this game up at Ford Field, so that will help. Certainly playing in an atmosphere that's not going to be as hostile. And this is a game, I just get a feeling from the Saints, they're dying to play. I think they would have played this game on Tuesday. They're just eager to get out and put a better performance and showing on the field on both sides of the ball. So I think we're going to see a much improved effort this week, and I think the Saints can win the turnover battle in this game and maybe get a comfortable win for one. They haven't really had a lot of drama in their games so far. And I don't think we're going to see drama this week, because I think the Saints will win this one by double digits.
Well, look, Jeff, we didn't talk about this so far, but I think it actually is worth noting. You mentioned there's not going to be fans in the Detroit stadium. But what is so strange is to watch a Saints game without the symbiotic relationship that exists between the team and the fans. I mean, it's like a special place. I mean, it's like one of the most feared, if not the most feared place to go from a fan perspective, the relationship between the fan and the team and the NFL. And here, they don't have that. So that energy is not there. That might have been enough to bring them through that Green Bay game, but they didn't have it. I mean, that's really powerful, isn't it?
No, that's a great point. And look, it also affected the fact that, you had one of the best hard count quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, and Aaron Rodgers, and he used it a couple times to hurt the Saints, and that would not have happened if there were fans in the Superdome. You wouldn't have been able to hear his hard count. So those little small things, those little details, have really hurt the Saints this year, and I think more so than most teams, because they have such a decided home field advantage in the Superdome. I think along with Arrowhead Stadium for Kansas City and Seattle, those are the three best home field advantages, and the Saints have unfortunately not had it for the first two home games. Now, it looks like they're going to get it for the Chargers game, at least some level, maybe 25% capacity for that game in 2 weeks.
25% can make some noise.
Yeah, it'll be a factor. In New Orleanians, Gulf Coast residents, the passion for football here is unlike anywhere else in the country. 25% can make a difference.
Well, because, going back to your book and going back to what I read at the very beginning, this rebirth that the Saints contributed to for our entire region after Hurricane Katrina. I mean, we were already big time Saints fans in this area, but boy, that relationship that we have with this team is so much deeper and so much more powerful than you would normally see. And it really is the region's team, the Gulf South region's team, as much our team as it is the city of New Orleans. And they know it, and they appreciate that. Get Jeff's book, Peyton and Breeze, The Men Who Built the Greatest Offense in NFL History, by Jeff Duncan, forward by Steve Gleason. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the coastal Mississippi studios, this is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on Super